Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free My Foot is cramping so bad. Oh my god, that hurts. The free-to-play cast brought to you by MMObomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman. We've got games, we've got news, we've got speculation. Who knows? We might even have a smoking argument. You never know on this show. You never know. But to join me today, talking about the news, I don't even want to introduce him.
Oh, wow.
Zach, Mr. Don't Play the Way You Want to, Sharps.
Hey, I'm all for playing the way you want to. But I guess this is the free-to-play cramp, so, I mean, we didn't really have an argument last week, so.
That was awful. That hurt. It's gone
Zach,
now.
Zach doesn't know what that's like because he doesn't have legs.
Right.
No foot cramps for him.
Also on the line, Mr. Jason Winter with the Winter Beard. How are you, sir?
Well, you know, when I was on 2 weeks ago, you talked about how you were going to do like free-to-play Santa or something. Like,
Yeah.
that was the question of the week, so I was,
Yeah.
getting ready, and but then I wasn't called upon for the cast.
Yeah. Well, you missed a good one. You missed a good one. And when
I watched that argument. I had to go back and watch. you
Yeah, I was
guys
just about
go
to
at it.
say when
Frank, you're both wrong, Frank.
we'll get there. We'll get there because we do have some recap from the viewers to go through on that one as well. But first, let's start with the news. All right, so this week we found a few new project announcements, and one of them was pretty typical, came in the way of a press release and news from other websites and everything. And then the other one was kind of hidden. You had to be watching a certain somebody's Twitter, and now it's been reported on a bunch of places. I'd like to think that's because we reported it. And it may be the case.
We're much bigger than Twitter.
Right, we're huge. We're huge in the Ukraine. The Ukraine loves us. Romania loves us. Yes, Romania loves us. So let's talk about the I guess more traditionally announced one first, guys. So Turtle Rock, the devs behind the recently not defunct but maybe defunct at some point Evolve, now under 2K's official banner from top to bottom in every way. Turtle Rock left there and all of a sudden, out of kind of nowhere, announced their own project. And we do know quite a few details on this one. There's still, what's the game going to be and stuff, but we do have more details than I think we're used to. We already have free-to-play confirmed, right? Right out of the bat. And they even had a comment on doing free-to-play, talking about it's a direct line towards making the game that we wanted to play when we first started working on it, and ensuring that the game comes to our community that the game is something that our community wants to play for years to come. So Turtle Rock, the team there, President Steve Goldstein, free-to-play. Awesome. Now, they're describing it, guys, as, quote, heart-pounding, moment-to-moment, online co-op, first-person shooter action. Acronym the shit out of that however you want to.
HPMTMOCOFPS. There you go.
Right, but they're switching this to, I mean, obviously they did Left 4 Dead, so you got the whole zombies thing there. You got Warhammer Vermintide, which kind of follows in the same mold as Left 4 Dead. That's not Turtle Rock, obviously, different company, but a lot of games starting to pony up into this little subgenre now. What makes Turtle Rock's offering different? Well, they're putting a strong dark fantasy element on it, something that we're maybe not used to. Oh, by the way, partnering with Perfect World Entertainment. That's a lot of information for a title we know nothing about. So, Jason, what did you think? When I saw the presser come in, I went, wow, that was quick. That was real quick. So what are your overall thoughts so far?
Just Evolve, new thing, yeah.
Right. It's almost like they were, oh, thank God they took Evolve. Now we can work on what we really wanted to work
No kidding. Yeah, actually, they probably have only started working on it now. It's probably like 6 sheets of paper posted to a wall in the office. That's how far the development has gone. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice to try something a little different. The things that really inspired me or that seemed really interesting to me was that they're not going to have a big focus on esports. They said so. That's weird. It makes you think that it's not going to be your typical kind of arena shooter or MOBA or anything like that. So
no, I kind of envision it along the lines of a Vermintide or a Left 4 Dead type thing, where it's predominantly PvE,
yeah,
with some
well, I'm talking about
PvP
co-op. Yeah.
options. Yeah, with the co-op options. I don't know. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, yeah, that and like I said, they're going to go with a completely new IP, so it's something totally different that we've never seen before. It's and say it's not going to be zombies, post-apocalyptic, that. So even because we know about the dark fantasy and so on. I mean, it sort of gives me a feel, almost like I guess, sort of like a Nosgoth kind of feel to it. Is how I think of dark fantasy now. Is Legacy of Kain, that whole thing. I hope it is something kind of on that level. That would be a nice counterbalance to things like Paladins, which have this very floofy kind of regular fantasy kind of feel to them. And nice to have something a little more adult, a little more dark and gritty. I mean, you've always kind of like that too. Left 4 Dead a little bit too. So interesting to see what they're going to come up with here.
Zach, your thoughts? And we're not going to see this until next year at the earliest.
No, 2018.
Or, I'm talking about betas and screenshots and things like that. We're not going to see any of that stuff until next year at the earliest. So what's your gut reaction, particularly maybe the partnership with Perfect World, who's kind of silently sneaking in here and picking up titles in just about every genre now?
I think it's good. I mean, Turtle Rock, as much as evolved didn't take off, the game it at least showed the potential of what they sort of wanted to do. And Turtle Rock's always been a company that has made at least solid games in general. So as far as the game itself being co-op and also dark fantasy based, dark fantasy I think is a good path for them to take, because it's not something that we see every single day. As far as the co-op shooter element goes, they could just be being honest, unlike the Division and Destiny, and be actually just going for a more co-op online type experience where you go through different areas and kill stuff with your friends, similar to what those games do that call themselves, more open world MMO-ish type games, even though they really aren't. So yeah, I mean, they could be going for that, or they could just be going for like what you guys are saying, like sort of a Warhammer, Vermintide, Left 4 Dead, stuff that is more small scale, but still has somewhat of a progression element in terms of getting to the end of it. So I don't really know just right now as far as how the Perfect World publisher sort of teamwork partnerships are really going to work into that. If it ends up being sort of like a Vermintide type title, I could see that being really odd. If it ends up just being like a standard, like a Division or Destiny, sort of a hybrid MMO that they could play into console development as well, I think that would be a lot more up Perfect World's alley, and I could see that working just fine.
I'm actually kind of excited about this one, and I don't generally get excited about first-person shooters just in general. There's a very few select that I play, whether they're single-player, multiplayer, co-op, massively online, or anything. There's very, very few. I like Warhammer Vermintide. I like Turtle Rock Studios. I enjoyed Left 4 Dead. I just thought it was short. Very short, and I like the Vermintide, Warhammer Vermintide a lot more because it is more in depth. There's a whole Act 1, Act 2, there's a whole long story sequence and all of that stuff. And so if they create kind of that experience, I like strong dark fantasy element. I mean, strong dark fantasy, that could range anywhere from the stuff that we're used to with, Warhammer being considered more of a darker fantasy, all the way to, hell, I mean, even vampires, like you had mentioned, Nosgoth. I would even put elements of steampunk in the strong dark fantasy, depending on how you do it. So there's a lot of wiggle room there for some stuff. And you know what? As much as I may not be a huge fan of Perfect World's publishing and monetization stuff in the long past, I think on some of their earlier games they got it way wrong. I really haven't had a huge gripe with anything they've released in, say, the last 2 years or so, maybe even the last 3 years. Nothing that made me go, fuck that, I ain't playing that. That's PWE being greedy. So
exactly.
I think this could be pretty good. Now, the other side of that is, would you call Evolve a co-op first-person shooter? Well, I'm not first-person just based on the view, but it is a co-op shooter, and we saw how well that went. So I think this is a great time to see exactly, since they're both going to be free-to-play, they're both in similar models, this is going to be a good telling indicator to me of exactly how much influence 2K put on how Evolve was monetized and sold as a boxed product, and maybe kind of give you an idea, Zach, of what Evolve could have been if Turtle Rock could have done things the way that it looks like they probably really wanted to.
Yeah, I wouldn't be as excited for this if it was under 2K. It's under Perfect World instead, so I'm a bit more excited for it. Because I think that there's been a lot of reports that's come out that 2K has been meddling in a lot of games, like the Mafia 3, for instance. A developer, Anonymous, came out basically stating that they meddled a lot in the game. That's why it wasn't as fleshed out. And I'm sure that with Evolve, it was the same thing, where it got to a point in development where they're like, you guys are getting this out the door, and you guys better finish it up and ship it out as soon as possible, because we're advertising and a bunch of stuff. And I think that with it being under Perfect World, I don't think Perfect World is that expedient with these things. They might want to get an open beta quickly, but they might not push it towards full release very quickly. And so, and like you mentioned, Perfect World, I think, has definitely been a lot more of a positive publisher lately, because they've started to realize that they don't need to be greedy scumbags to make money. And that's a good thing. A lot of companies are actually starting to realize that, hey, if we at least are good somewhat, people are going to spend more money because of that than if we're just a complete asshole where they would just spend nothing because people just flat out boycott us.
Yeah, there's some things in Neverwinter I'd rather they didn't do, but nothing that makes me throw my hands up in the air and go, screw this.
That's the point. Is it's not like super greedy, full on scum.
Oh, it's greedy. It's greedy. it's they're just not getting a dime out of me, and they don't have to. Based on the way they're doing it. So, Jason, nothing like starting the hype train for a game we haven't even seen a screenshot for, huh?
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, I'm interested to see where it's going to go, but I'm not as like, yeah, greatest thing ever. I can't wait to play this. Yeah, I need to see a few more details on it before I...
How about a picture? Let's start there.
What's their definition of co-op, too? Because, I mean, co-op is like the most vague thing you could say. MMOs are all co-op.
40-man raids. I'm pretty sure that's where Turtle Rock is looking, is 40-man raiding with a long-ass attunement quest to begin the whole thing. The other project that was announced, but, it was more in the vein of a, hey, we're looking for employees. By the way, it's because we're working on an unannounced project. Came from Hi-Rez Studios, Smite, Paladins, all the fun stuff from them. They posted Todd Harris, executive there, posted 65 job openings the company's looking for. So on the COO's Twitter, came out, says, hey, we're looking for 65 gaming enthusiasts and professionals. And so we always report on layoffs here. So here's the opposite. If you're in the gaming industry looking for a job, here's a very well-done, established company looking for 65. And the exact tweet says, so we have an incredible 65 open jobs now posted at Smite Game, at Paladins Game, and, quote, unannounced project, and then he supplies the link. I have literally no idea where even to begin guessing on this at this point. They have a MOBA. They've done their shooters. They're now getting into the free-to-play card game area, the turn-based strategy with a card influence. I mean, where the hell are they going now? What is next for Smite or for Hi-Rez, Jason?
Well, one thing I can say for sure, probably Global Agenda 2 is dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They haven't been working on it now, and if it's not their new thing, of the 2 new things they've announced in the last 3 months, they ain't doing it. That's never going to happen. But yeah, I mean, you got a good point. It's like, what is left? They've covered all the general bases that come out now. So maybe they're doing a co-op FPS just the same way, but...
Huge AAA MMO. Here it comes, Zach. It didn't come last time, but it's coming this time, damn it.
Well, I have a theory. So I think that I just got done watching a couple days ago Danny O'Dwyer's no-clip documentary on Rocket League. And one of the things that Psyonix's lead producer basically was mentioning is how a lot of game companies take on contracts along with doing their normal game in order to sort of fund the development process throughout its entirety. So what I'm kind of thinking here is maybe they did games like Smite, games like Paladins, and also their mobile game, which are all 3 very trending genres, to be able to create their dream game, because I knew they would all give an influx in cash. I mean, obviously a MOBA was going to do at least good enough to break even, and Smite ended up doing really well. And then Paladins is doing phenomenal, and it's a team-based shooter around the same time team-based shooters are hot. And then they're doing a mobile game basically around the time where mobile is extremely hot too. So they've been sort of following this tidal wave of popularity in terms of genres lately. So what I kind of feel is maybe they saw that, okay, well, we can make a really good game in each of these genres to fund a bigger title down the road. And I think the bigger title is their dream MMO, not a Global Agenda 2, but at least something very, very big, something that they've been trying to sort of piece together for a long time and really see what works and what doesn't work within a bunch of different genres to make them all influx into a really good MMO.
I don't buy that at all. As much as, and again, I said this in Skype when we were talking about their last little turn-based strategy game announcement. As much as I would love to see a company like Hi-Rez, although their character art department, I think, could use a little work sometimes. Some of them seem a little uninspired to me, but maybe it's just a personal preference, and I'm nuts. I would like to see them do something a bit more ambitious. I don't think that's going to be the announcement. I think this is probably going to be something else that we all kind of go, oh, okay. Well, we'll check it out when it comes out.
The problem I have is I just can't. Yes, survival. That I was trying to think of a genre that fits. Not necessarily a massive size team, but a somewhat medium to small size team, and survival fits that.
Yeah, because all the survival games are doing so well that you would want to jump on that bandwagon, Jason.
That's why I don't think that would be the case.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it is either, but I think if you could still potentially do it well, as long as you don't just, half-ass, early access something out the door, which is maybe kind of what Conan Exiles is going to be, but it's kind of tough to tell, but... Yeah, I mean, I think there might still be room if you do that right, or something like a building game. Maybe even a combination of the two. I'm probably just being stupid and uninspired here. It's probably something completely different and off the wall that's going to blow us all away. But just in terms of what's out there now and what they don't already have, that seems like a possible way for them to go. Yeah. Maybe it's also based in the Smite universe. It's like Olympus Survival or something like that.
It's another mobile game. I'm calling it right now. It's another mobile game.
Not as many people is working on. I don't think. I think that would be much smaller.
Well, all 65 are not dedicated to that project. If you go and look at the job postings, they are spread out. So it's some on Paladin, some on this, and some on this. So that's not just, hey, we're looking for 65 to work on something new.
If they're following their same sort of tactic of going from genre to genre that's rising in popularity, I think that what they would probably do is a co-op sort of hybrid online MMO type game, like a Division or Destiny. But
it's a co-op. Everyone's doing that. It's a co-op strong dark fantasy shooter.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we'll have to keep our eyes peeled. It's going to be another mobile title. So, speaking of some of what we talked about last week, we had a spirited discussion between Zach and I regarding Star Wars The Old Republic's Galactic Command credit system. And Jason, when he saw Zach and I talking about it in Skype, went and checked out the show and watched it, informed us of why we were both wrong, which we'll talk about when we get to the viewer comments. But... also took some time to think about this a little bit, took that kind of discussion and ramped it up tenfold and kind of put maybe a new way forward for free-to-play MMOs. So Jason, give us the overview first, and then we'll kind of dissect it to see if we all agree. Could this work? Would we play it? Blah, blah, blah.
Did you have your cigarettes ready?
I'm not going to get mad today.
Okay.
I'm not going to get mad.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so I mean, like a lot of MMOs lately have been adopting kind of a form of loot bars, as I call it, which is similar to XP bars. You do stuff, you fill up your bar. When you get to the end of it, you get something. SWTOR did it with their Galactic Command. Marvel Heroes is going to do it. Guild Wars 2 has that kind of thing in a few game modes. And the big reason for that is that randomized loot can suck. You run the dungeon, you never win a roll. You grind mobs, don't get the drop you want. So a different system that gives you more consistent loot can give you a more predictable way to get what you want. But I was wondering, could this be done for an entire MMO as the sole way to acquire loot, and not just as an additional or a bonus activity? Could we replace all the loot drops, quest rewards, dungeon loot, all that stuff with this kind of system? And would we even want to? I mean, from the standpoint of like making loot less random and less frustrating, I think it could work. The issues would be whether it feels less realistic to get an occasional box of loot, or whatever from whatever source, and to actually feel like you're scrounging around in some dead monster's pockets and getting, silver items or whatever. But I think also that, a lot of PvP games and a lot of game modes like that in MMOs already ruin that kind of immersion. You just get stuff when you win battles or reach certain milestones or whatever, so maybe people could adjust to it. And then beyond that, there are other technical hassles like I put in the article, like how SWTOR is doing it wrong by still randomizing the loot or requiring you to pay to get it. And then there's as we went into before, the play how you want mentality, which SWTOR really wanted to implement, which was good, but then that was subverted by people doing mindless farming, which was generally bad. And I think there are ways around that as well. Though they might seem restrictive and kind of fly in the face of the how do you want ideal. But again, on some level, it's some of the stuff we already have, things like daily limits or diminishing returns or raid locks, whatever, that sort of thing. And it's probably also not the greatest idea to try doing this to a game where you're already used to doing things a certain way, like SWTOR did. A lot of this argument is basically like SWTOR had a pretty decent idea, but their implementation was awful, which is also kind of like SWTOR in a nutshell.
Right, I was just gonna say, wasn't that the premise for the game?
Yeah, but trying to wedge this in when the game is already running, it's kind of like switching from sub to free to play instead of being free to play from the start. And
that was such an easy low class shot, and we all took it.
I know, but I mean, yeah, if you could plan this from the start, it didn't have all the sucky elements, or at least tried to figure out how to mitigate them without just trying to jury rig it into your existing systems, I think it could work. With one of the major issues, I think, being even if you did everything right numerically, I still think it could be somewhat of an issue for people's immersion in that they want to get stuff as they kill monsters, loot their bodies or whatever. So
yeah, I don't get to pick up male pants off of a kobold. Come on.
Exactly. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Zach?
I think the problem actually just stems from developers thinking they could patch something like this in really quickly without actually fully testing it like it's actually part of the game and going to be part of the game for the future. And, to Jason's point, yeah, the randomized loot is awful, and it causes an issue where, yeah, you're able to sort of play how you want, but then, if you just get a bunch of random loot that you don't want, then what the hell was the point to begin with? So making it
the way you want to play is faster than the way I want to play, yours needs to be nerfed to hell and back, or mine needs to be.
Hey, buffed. I wasn't gonna bring any of this up. All right.
Sorry.
I want you to know too. I had the skeleton of this article figured out weeks ago too. So long before you guys had your little debate, I was working on this. So, all right.
That's serendipity right there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if the loot is less random and more like oriented towards your class or the character you're playing, that would be a lot better, as long as it's not like major upgrades that you're getting, like maybe just incremental. That way you're going to get something that's an upgrade but not something that's going to hit you to the best in slot item, for example. So yeah, I could see that being a solution, but what developers really need to understand is a system like this needs to be tested for so long. Because if you want a philosophy of play the way that you want to, and everything is as even as you could possibly get it, that's humanly possible, which is what a lot of these systems try and do, then you need to do extensive testing to ensure that no one's going to find something that's going to be way just out of the park and be able to just completely destroy your system that way. And then you're going to try and snap it back and just nerf something 90%. And call it good and cause backlash across the entire community. That's not a smart thing to do. And I didn't get around to it last week, but that's one of the issues that I have with BioWare is, yes, I like the overall expansion, but the reason why this happened to begin with is because they're doing it annually, the expansions annually, so they didn't have any time to test the dang thing, and they just threw it out there without any testing. So, yeah, I just think that this type of system needs to be heavily tested.
So my thoughts on it, yeah, Jason, to your point that you put in the article, and I'm glad you did because it would have been the first thing I said during proofing, was this has to be implemented from launch. No question. You can't have something and then switch to this. It's just, that doesn't work. The second question I would have is, I'm okay with the idea through the whole leveling curve. I really don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. I'm going to get my little upgrades along the way by, leveling this little bar. That's fine. I think it kind of, and you just mentioned this, it kind of starts to take on a different life of its own when you get to endgame, particularly if you have somebody that's PvE focused or PvP focused, assuming you have two different sets of gear. If you have just one, it gets a little bit easier, which is good. But if I just keep playing the game and doing anything long enough, eventually, to Zach's point, I'm guaranteed at least a shot at the best in slot boots. But you're the one doing the hard content. It gets into that play who you want. My bigger question would be this: what is the difference between this and some of the older systems that I know that you're not necessarily a fan of, Jason. For instance, what is the difference between me filling up this bar and taking a shot at getting my purple boots, right, at max level, or my tier 2 boots, and tier 3 is the top tier in the game right now, whatever the case may be. What is the difference between filling up the bar and doing that, or having a currency, you know, the old justice points, the tombstones in Final Fantasy, and farming up the tokens and going and getting exactly the piece I want? I think Final Fantasy, although the whole tombstone thing does seem like an older MMO trope to me, I think they do it in a very intelligent way, in that it's not just like in the old justice points days, you had to go and do dungeons and that was it. You can get them from multiple different sources. What's the difference between the two that makes you, in person, favor an experience bar, maybe with a random element? I don't know, depends on the game. Or a more dedicated, farm up some points, go grab the piece of gear you want?
On some functional level, it really isn't. It's just a difference of how you want to count things. If I kill a monster and I can get 100 loot XP and I need 10,000 to fill us up, or if I kill a monster, I got 1 stone, I need 100 to buy the thing.
Right.
Basically, it's roughly the same thing. The point I made, though, is that I think at the end of your... and because I talk about Guild Wars 2 and how they do their bars in World versus World and PvP. And what you do, when you do that, you set a bar that you want, and that's what you're going to build up. And you start off with only maybe like 10 or so unlocked. I don't know how many exactly. You can unlock more by doing various activities and so on. At the end of that bar, the big prize at the end is not random. You absolutely positively know what you're going to get. Now, along the way, they'll have little bits of the piece where you get little random bits of loot or whatever. But at the end is sort of the thing you're really striving for. So that's where I would think it should be. And that's where you should have your tier 2 or your tier 3. And you know you're going to get that kind of boots at the end. So
yeah, but then you have people like Zach that are, you know, a hardcore raider, let's say, and he's got to pick up a couple of people, and these guys have the gear that they need for this, and they did not participate in any of the raid content, so they're geared for it, but there doesn't come the knowledge level that would go with that content. Now Zach's pissed off. There's challenges to it. I like it. I like it. Well, I don't know how well it does at endgame, though. I just don't know.
I think I would say then you just don't. I mean, for the people who do that, who grind up the stuff without doing the raids, they just don't. They're probably not going to be doing raids anyway. If they're enjoying doing the stuff, doing the random stuff the whole time, even if they get the best gear, they're probably not doing raids anyway. So
good point.
Yeah, I think it to your point about like the levels versus like badges, for instance, it also kind of just plays into gamer psychology.
Yeah,
when they
you like seeing a bar fill up.
Yeah, exactly. When you see a level, you're like, oh, that's amazing. If you just see points build up, you're like, oh, well, I just spent all my points, now I'm at 0, so I'm a loser again. It's not like a prestige thing, because if you're like Galactic Command level 5,000 or whatever, I'm not sure if there's a cap on or anything like that. Right. But if you're super high up there and you show your friend that, they're like, oh my god, you're really far in this game. You know a lot of things. You're really experienced, even though you could have just been farming one thing. But it's just that level that amplifies sort of your character's merit, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So I understand it from that point. When it comes down to it, though, I think these systems are trying to play into a sort of more sandboxy element of going out and just doing what you want and still being rewarded for it. But they're not really executing it, to Jason's point, in an effective way to make it feel like you're actually getting rewarded accurately based off the amount of time you play. Because I mean, if you have just terrible luck, you're not going to get your loot no matter what you try, because you just have terrible luck. So to have a guaranteed result at the end, sort of like what Jason was mentioning with Guild Wars 2, and sort of how at the end you know exactly where you're going to get, I can see that working well. But then again, it's like, well, if you rush to that and then you end up, like Mike said, hop into a particular type of content that you aren't experienced in, but you feel like you have the gear for, and you feel like you're definitely good enough as a player to go into, but you have no knowledge whatsoever of what that particular type of content entails, it can kind of fragment the community and make them then look out for achievements instead of gear score, because they're like, okay, well, if you have these achievements, then you're knowledgeable. But if you don't have these achievements and you have the gear score, then you're just some pleb that was farming PvP instead of PvE all the time. So it creates problems, but I think it works towards a better end goal. It's just it needs to be tweaked here and there, and how it's tweaked, who knows? But it needs to be implemented from the start, as we all agree.
Or you could just do what Black Gold did and make a loot system that's so complex.
I didn't want to bring up Black Gold, but yeah, it is similar to what they have. Yeah. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want the stench of that being stuck to it.
Theirs was based on time, I think, was the only difference
between. Every hour you got your thing, and however much stuff you did, you got a better thing. And if you open more than 2 things a day, you'd have to pay for it. So that was kind of the other crappy part.
You really, Jason, you should look into this. You're good with this type of stuff. I love the idea of like psychology or sociology and things like that. Like you have John Taffer, who, if you don't know him, is in the United States. He hosts a show called Bar Rescue, where he goes into failing bars and tries to help them turn it around. Kind of like a Kitchen Nightmares, except for bars and pubs. And like they talk about the science of that stuff, like the sociology behind where your eye falls on a menu when you're at a restaurant first and stuff like that. I think we should look into the MMO/gamer side of that, because Zach, to your point, there is such a difference between looking and seeing that I need 495 tomestones in Final Fantasy and I'm only at 240 and I'm halfway there, and I just go, oh fuck. Besides looking at a bar at the bottom and I'm like, oh shit, I'm halfway there. Nice. Let's go. There's just a total different psychological impression. So,
well, how much would you give me for funding for my psychological research project?
I don't know.
What's our budget? 50 grand. 50 grand would do fine.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd do fine with that. Although we could just steal the money like one guy did before we head on over to the bombs. God, that was a good segue. So Kevin Lee Coe of Sacramento, California, is gonna be doing some time in jail. Why? Well, he embezzled money from his company. Why the hell are we talking about that on the free-to-play cast when that happens in the United States of America every day? Well, he stole $5 million, Zach, and let me tell you what he spent the money on, okay? I'm going to run this down for you. He bought a couple luxury cars. I think that's all.
Good choice.
Yeah, we all would probably buy at least one, right? Season tickets to his favorite pro sports teams. I can see me doing that. I can see me doing that. Golf club membership? Yeah. I'd probably buy some better clubs, but I don't play enough to make it worth being a member. But okay, I could totally see it. Winning putt, right there. Plastic surgery.
Do you keep your clubs after you're done?
I'm not looking for a breast enhancement or anything, but, Jason, if you want to have some work done, hey, do it with somebody else's money. Why do you think the young ladies marry the rich, old, 90-year-old guys?
Zach could afford legs.
Yeah, Zach, exactly. You could steal money and afford legs. What else? Oh yeah, $1 million on Game of War, the mobile free-to-play game. Wait, what?
Yeah.
What? So over a period of 7 years, he embezzled almost $5 million from his employer. He's pleading guilty, and he's going to face a ton of jail time. But he spent $1 million, 20% of the money he embezzled from this company, on the free-to-play mobile game, Game of War. That is somebody that is dedicated to making teenagers cry. I mean, that is their life's goal and ambition. I'm not here to judge you. If you have millions of dollars and you want to spend millions of dollars on a mobile game, go for it. If I had the money, I wouldn't do it. I don't have the money. I'm still not going to do it. So, but seriously, when you're embezzling that money from another company and what you're doing is illegal, maybe use that, half of that 1 million to get your ass out of the country. Set up an escape route.
And I mean, you can get probably good Wi-Fi, wireless service somewhere else. You can still play Game of War.
Right, get your ass to a non-extradition country.
Oh, and he's 45, by the way. So.
ASAP. Yeah, 45. Dude.
That's even beyond my age demographic.
Dude's in his prime, He's a couple, 15, 20 years. He'll be able to kick back and retire. Could have had a cool couple of millions sitting in an offshore bank account and run to South America somewhere. Nope. This timer has got to go. 2 hours? No. Build now. Zach, I don't even know what to say.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna look at it from the psychological route of the fact that the guy embezzled a ton of money first is obviously basically looking at the fact that he wants to sort of be a really rich person, but he doesn't want to work towards it. But he wants sort of that recognition of, oh, I have a lot of luxury cars, I got a golf membership, so I can, drink champagne on the golf course with my rich buddies and smoke cigars. And then he goes out and he spends $1 million on a mobile game. Now, what country has issues with this particular type of genre? Well, China. China has a bunch of mobile and browser-based games that pop up all the time, and the reason why there's big whales that always spend a ton of money on them is because they want to see their name on the top of a leaderboard, and they'll do anything to do that, to get that recognition, to feel prestige. And so what I feel happened here is, since this guy obviously has an issue where he wants to sort of be a rich guy, I mean, why else would he have bought a golf membership and bought luxury cars and stuff like that? He wanted to live that lifestyle. And so another reason that he did this is to feel the prestige in game as well. And so he spent a ton of money to be the big bad of that particular mobile game. And of course it blew up in his face. But yeah, it's really odd. I don't know why someone would go to that great of lengths to feel so good about themselves when they know they're going to get caught eventually, especially if it kind of feels like they want to get caught because they didn't do anything to try not to get caught. He kind of just acted as if, oh, he's going to take all this money from his company and no one's going to try and figure out where it went. He's just going to spend millions on that particular mobile game and no one's going to notice. Like, I don't get that logic if he doesn't really care to not get caught. So
yeah, the other side of this is I wish we had his username. I wish we knew his display name so that we could see if he ever made the leaderboards. Because if you don't, with that kind of investment, then I think that kind of gives you an idea of how much money those things make. Well, here's the other thing too, thinking about it from kind of an offshoot of what you just said. I guess when you're embezzling money like that, the reason it's probably a lot easier to just keep spending money on a game like that is you don't anticipate the money stopping at some point, right? It's not yours, so you just throw it into whatever you're doing, and you don't anticipate stopping or getting caught, so I guess maybe that's how he runs up to $1 million, but good grief, Jason. Absolutely absurd.
It's like you guys are tackling the psychology of this one. I mean, it is sort of, it probably is on some level the same as what you think of with people who are kind of going crazy in a mobile game. They're like, oh, I'll buy this one thing for $5. Oh, I did that. Oh, I'll just get this thing for 10. Oh, okay, I did that. Well, no, I'll just do this thing for 20. And it probably worked that same way with the embezzlement. He's like, well, I just got 10 grand out of embezzling. I'll get another 20 grand. Oh, that went fine. I'll just get another 50 grand. He probably just kept going at it and on and on. And like you said, just figuring it would never end, never get caught. It's working so far. Why not grab another $500,000? Sure, why not? So.
Oh no, you little 14-year-old boy playing games of war. You are not. You took it over this once, but I'm going to work tomorrow, and I'm coming back tomorrow, and I'm coming after you, Dick Weasel 69. Coming after you.
I'd actually love to see the demographics on games like this. If they really are 14-year-olds, or if they are 45-year-olds with credit cards and $100,000 a year jobs or whatever.
I don't know.
They're heavily advertised. I saw an ad for that game during the Super Bowl. So,
oh yeah.
I mean,
well, everyone watches the Super Bowl, but
yeah.
Hey, there's lots of advertisers that aren't advertising in the Super Bowl this year. Lots of longtime ones, Doritos, stuff like that. They're backing out to reevaluate their advertising.
Totally. What are we going to watch then? We have to watch the game instead of the commercials,
right? Well, we can watch us do the weekly bombs.
We're king of the segues today.
Go ahead, Zach. You're up.
I'm going to give a da bomb to Gigantic. It's a very fast-paced and has tight gameplay, while it's also pretty much balanced. There's a little bit of imbalance, but
it's balanced-ish.
It's close. It's close. The only complaint, of course, comes from the Windows Store killing any chance for it to really have any fan base on PC.
Yeah.
That is until it arrives on Perfect World's Arc platform, which it might show up on Steam because of that, because Perfect World has a history of showing up on Steam. But that's going to be at a later point and I can understand why it's going to take them a bit, because they have to try and get that cancer called Windows Store DRM out of the game, which, I mean, finding a cure for software cancer is not easy.
It is not. It is not. What's the ribbon look like for that? Go ahead, Jason.
Actually, you go first because
you want me to go first?
On the end
Okay.
of yours, yeah.
Okay. So last week I gave a tentative dub bomb to Try On Worlds because I thought what they were doing with ArcAge's fresh start servers was very cool. Was very. Are you drinking from a wine bottle?
No.
Was that Cristal? What is?
No. It's sparkling cider.
It's just hitting the fucking bottle in the middle of the show. He didn't even get himself a glass. He's just taking it to the face.
This is actually
I knew as soon as I did that, as soon as you guys did that, you guys were like, "What the hell is that?"
I probably wouldn't have said anything if I didn't have the multi-host shot up right then. But it's right in front of me because your cameras are over here. Anyway, so I gave Try On Worlds a tentative dub bomb for the fresh start servers. But it was pending execution, and I did put that on there. We'll have to watch and see how this is executed. So, I'm here to tell you this week that dub bomb is revoked. A-bomb for Try On World's execution. Just awful, particularly in North America, where both EU and NA were plagued by startup issues and connections and queues and everything like that. And I don't think people would have minded queues so much because that's the whole point, is cram a bunch of people in there as fast as possible. But the queues became outrageous. Then there were technical difficulties in the game. They got the EU servers running, but NA was days and days and days of problems and problems and problems. And the last time I checked last night, they were still having some issues with a couple of the fresh start servers. So there it goes. A good idea, an A-bomb for the execution. Apologies to our ArcAge friends and players out there that had something good going, and maybe it'll still be good once you're in, but damn, was it a rocky start. And that just seems to be the case every time you turn around with Try On particularly on ArcAge.
QAge the sequel.
Right. Go ahead, Jason.
Actually, 17 minutes ago, they tweeted out a state of the game with all sorts of details of what's going on there. So anyway, go look at that on their forums or on their Twitters, guys, if you want to look at that. I'm just going to single. I'm being small and petty here. I know I shouldn't, but I'm just going to single out one little part of the whole ArcAge drama weekend. On 3 days ago? So I guess Monday, they tweeted out, "When thousands of people try to log in at once, disconnects occur. Populations are growing rapidly on both vengeance and retribution." And that just struck me as the whole, it's not our fault, guys. Shit's just happening. That's like the entire ArcAge microcosm. If SWTOR's good ideas done poorly, that's the ArcAge microcosm. We had no way of knowing this could ever happen. So
yeah, when I did the preview and I was talking to them, I said something. I said, "Oh, this is." We were talking about past and things like that, and I said, "Oh yeah, those articles were fun to write up where something would happen with ArcAge, and Try-On's responses would basically be, it's not our game, it's XL Games." And he was like, "Well, that was like 2 years ago," and I was like, "Yeah, but gamers don't forget. Gamers don't forget." From the viewers, Hellsworth says, "Dub bombs on Warframe and Sky Saga. New content and a new Warframe incoming for Christmas on the 1st, and much fun on the latter for the 2nd week for me. A-bomb to Mr. Winter, since it seems he is not recovered yet, so a continued best wishes is due to the Trooper." He was fine last week. It was just this normal schedule. Time. Yep. What game I'd like to be recovered, because I did talk about MMO first looks. I didn't talk about recovered. I was looking for a new one, but that's okay. As you said that you make a mistake on Alids that cost you dearly, why not do a recovered show where you pick a high-end character and play a bit overall end game? Why not start with something you already have, like Riders of Icarus? It could even be about good games done right that have low population, like, for example, Wildstar. You could even include this on my MMO bomb present for Christmas. All right, so Hellsworth, couple things there. We have started dabbling in a show called First Look Updates. I've done, I think, 2 of them, maybe, where we do go back. It's harder to do because it either has to be a game that, one of us has played substantially. Like, we could certainly have Jason jump in and do a first look updates on something like Guild Wars 2. He has a high-level character. He can jump into new content right away. On other games, like Alids Online, nobody here has a character anywhere near level cap. And with the grind wall on the free servers, nobody here is going to put in the time just to do a 15-minute video on what it looks like. So we do have to work with our publishing partners and distribution partners and developer partners to facilitate that, to see if they have access to a press account, or if they'll give us a press account or some type of character boost. It all depends on what systems they have. So it's a bit harder to do, but we have started dabbling in it. The Alids video that you're referencing, the first look is fine. I'd leave the first look. It was an old show we did called Is It Pay to Win? And we did it when I was with MMO Bomb the first time. We did like 3 different episodes. After the Alids one, I was like, I don't want to do this show anymore. Because I was just dead wrong. I was speaking as a newer player who was at mid-level range at that point, and did not realize the impact of one particular segment of their cash shop on the end game. And so my opinion was totally null and void. The first look video is fine though. So yeah, there you go. How things work behind the scenes. Go ahead, Jason.
Kuwu says, I heard so many mentions about pay to win. I disagree that ArcAge is pay to win. When I mentioned this on ArcAge forums, the response from the other players is like, what? Not pay to win? So when I asked them what do they mean by pay to win, let's get down to concrete definition and then dissect the game across, see if that fits the pay to win definition. Nobody can give me a clear definition on what they mean by pay to win, so it seems that most, if not all, of MMO players don't even know what the hell they're talking about, but freely allege pay to win upon some games. So what is your definition of pay to win? For me, I would not give you a definition of pay to win, but I would give you an indicator of what is not pay to win.
Wait. Hold on. Let's put a pause on there.
Oh, he was asking us what that was?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's asking us. So, sorry. But wait, he or she's asking us, but I gotta ask, wait. You're upset because nobody's giving you a concrete definition of pay to win. You're asking us for ours. And then you're saying that you won't give a definition of pay to win, but an indicator of what's not pay to win. I understand what you're asking. I'm just having a little fun with the way that one's worded up.
This is the whole issue on why pay to win is the most useless term in existence.
Oh, it definitely is. Now, go ahead. Finish his comments, and then we'll chime in with the answer.
Right. For me, I would give you a definition. I would give you a definition, but I will not give you an indicator of what is not pay to win. But whatever. Anyway, you can construct that definition based on that. If there's an element in the game that requires you to pay real cash for it and no other way to get it, then it is a no-choice situation except to extract cash from players in order to achieve that objective. Then it is pay to win.
I think all 3 of us agree on that, with the stipulation that the money has some intrinsic, or the item has some intrinsic statistical or advantageous caveat to it. Because by that definition, amount that you can only get in the cash shop, you're calling pay to win. I think you need to put a little addendum there that it has to be gameplay impacting, right?
Did you read my article from a few months ago? So,
I think I actually replied to this guy too, about sort of how I felt about it, because I agreed with him, other than the fact that, like what you just mentioned, that's still a bit too vague. Like if it gives a power advantage and you can't get it in the game any other way, and for this instance, I said this many times, I don't think ArcAge is pay to win in this respect, because you can always buy stuff from the cash shop with in-game currency and vice versa. So it's one of those things where it comes down to the fact that if you can still obtain it, no matter how much of a grind it is, I don't think that's pay to win. But
and
it's
that's
a
how
super big grind.
Finishes up too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Pay to win's never going to be rigidly defined.
Do we have another half an hour?
It's never going to be rigidly defined. Ever. The most basic version you get is this. If an item is in the cash shop, but not available through any other means in the game, and that item offers a statistical advantage to the player purchasing it with cash, I think everybody playing games would agree that is an element of pay to win. Sure. However, everybody else is going to stretch off from there, where people who think bag space is pay to win because it gives Zach an advantage over me and being able to farm this, and everybody's going to have their own thing from there on out. That's the only concrete portion I'll give you, which is exactly where you are, so we're on the same page. And I can understand people thinking ArcAge is pay to win because of some of the items they have there that do impact your gathering ability and farming ability for items. So I can understand that. I don't agree because, yes, you can get it in game, but whatever. Zach, go ahead.
Proxy Mutties HD says the Bomb 2 Peria Chronicles finally coming out.
2 finallys, both capitalized.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta like when somebody does only one fucking, but multiple finallys. So yeah, congratulations. Where are my show notes? I jumped to Peria's game page. NCAP Volklal says, A-Bomb, the Neverwinter, Riders of Icarus, and any other MMOs that don't let you use global chat or let you get help from a game master or server master. A few months ago, I stopped playing Neverwinter because I had some problems and I couldn't find any help because I was not high enough level to use global chat, which is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in an MMO. And a while ago, when playing Riders of Icarus, I came across a bug quest, which I couldn't find help because there was no global chat and no way to get help from server masters. And when I tried Googling my bug quest, I found out that no one had that bug that I had, and there was no way for me to progress. That's a bit of a double-edged sword there, though. I mean, everybody kind of knows, I think, why they're doing that. It's for the gold selling and the botting is forcing you to play the game to some degree before you can do that. So, annoying, but...
Well, you should at least be able to get to a game master.
Yeah, the game master one's
silly.
a bit odd. Not like you're going to try and sell it to the devs.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
All right, Luca Dorniak, so I'm going to choose to pronounce that, says, the bomb to magicman's response to the SWOTOR argument. I play Guild Wars 2, where earning gold can be done a million different ways. Of course, the best way to do it is to mindlessly farm the Heart of Thorns maps that come with the expansion packs. I think Silver Waste is actually maybe better. I don't know, maybe Heart of Thorns is now, but there's always something. But that just kills me in an hour. Even though I have the choice to do them and earn a metric fuck ton of gold, I choose to do fractals and raids, where it takes communication and skill to complete, even though the rewards are about 50% less of those because of the mindless farm. For me, it's not about getting there faster or being better than others. It's about testing your skills and working with others to complete the task at hand. Kudos to those who can turn off their brains and just farm for 6 hours. I, on the other hand, seem to lack that ability, and I just do normal content. So I'll chime in with a little bit of my opinion on this. I'll try to be brief about it. That I agree with Luca.
Hold that thought.
Oh, sorry? Okay.
Hold that till we get to the question of the week, because we've swapped something around.
All right.
Go ahead, Zach.
I'm going to Polo Bornfly to bomb for Paragon for the map redesign and for giving me the Rictor skin. Yes, they were giving away skins, and I didn't get ones that I wanted.
Nisogra, and I've edited this down. There was a lot there, but I wanted to get your bomb in here. Dub bomb to Zach for understanding MMO players. I think you meant psychology, not physiology. He understands the MMO players' bodies. And if you need proof, ask Anderson Cooper about AB multi-loot in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, I forgot about the Orc Basin. I forgot.
So now you can see why I was asking you to hold on for just a second. Finish the bombs up so we can hit the comments.
Haydrex Sky Shadow says, okay, I have an example for your argument. Heroes of the Storm, you have a max of 3 missions that requires you to do different things, win 3 games, play 8 games, play as warrior, etc. They're supposed to be done in PvP, but doing bot battles can finish missions just as well. And one bot game is from 4 to 5 minutes. Is 4 to 5 minutes instead of 35 to 45 minutes PvP battle. It's nice to finish the missions fast, but finding PvP matches is significantly harder. But then again, I don't need that much gold. I buy 1 to 2 heroes occasionally. I have no advantage if I have 10 heroes or just 2. I need to know how to play the game. That's it. But then again, at the start of the new HOTS event, that rewarded 5 free heroes if you finished 30 games with a friend. Yeah, you had no chance to find any game. Everyone was against bots. So in the end, it can be nice to farm faster, but greedy people can ruin the game for a little for other players.
All right, so I gave you... Hold on.
Yep.
I gave you the question of the week last week. Wanted to do a bizarre game first look, so I wanted people to take... Yeah, like 2 of you answered that. So instead, what I've done is I have extracted some of the viewers' feedback on the heated discussion Zach and I had last week. And I gotta say, it was pretty evenly split.
Yeah.
It really was evenly split.
That's because I said you were both wrong.
Right.
And both right at the same time.
And Jason did want to talk, and he specifically had a Guild Wars 2 example, which I thought was very funny when I saw the 2 different comments had said, ask Jason about this in Guild Wars 2. So Elusive X Treasure says, on the whole gear grind discussion between magicman and Zach, it seems to me that there are two types of players in this situation. The min-maxer, who will always find and cling to the most efficient way to do things, touting it as the only way, the required way. And the player who values entertainment over time investment, opting to do this what is enjoyable over what is efficient. I have friends who do their dailies and endgame activities to death, ever reaching for that final bit of item level or extra stats. I dabble in in-game. I do enjoy it when I do it, but I think I would hang myself if I were that dedicated to it. I'd much rather do those things when I feel like doing them. I don't care if someone is ahead of me in gear or gets to do this or that raid before I do. It's supposed to be fun, and to me, that's more than obsessing over gear and endgame. Hell, most of the time, I'd rather level alts. Thank you, Elusive. Go ahead, Zach.
5,000 CZ. So much drama in this. Though, to be honest, I agree with Zach's point. I wouldn't want to be grinding content. I would like the option to do more things. And if I get rewarded all about the same, I could do the things I want and still not feel like I'm lagging behind. Make everything 10 points, XD.
All right.
Go ahead, Jason, and then you can throw at the end of this, throw in your comments that you were going to throw in above.
I've completely forgotten what I was on at this point, but I'll try. Stefan W1337 says, did you ever talk about housing in Elder Scrolls Online coming?
No, because it's buy to play. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course not. I'm more on Mike's side when it comes to SWTOR, but I agree with that it can be ruining how to play the game if one thing is too OP. Efficient players and players with little time would then grind, which is boring, and they should be rewarded extra for it, in my opinion. But it was, as Mike said, nerfed so much that so no one would play that way now, which is against what BioWare wanted. I also think BioWare and Telltale Games should cooperate, or BioWare buy Telltale Games for even more and better stories that have bigger impacts on choices.
Yeah.
So how were we both wrong? You were talking about something in Guild Wars 2, and you started to mention above there. Do you want me to come back?
No, well, I'm thinking of what you guys were saying. I said you're both wrong right after I watched the cast. Mike, you're correct in that if something is nerfed, people will go to the next thing that's the most lucrative. And if that's nerfed, people will go to the next thing that's most lucrative.
Yes.
But Zach was correct in saying that you shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't be the only way to progress if you want to be decent. To have the good stuff at the proper level. There should be multiple ways to do it, I feel. It's just that, as we've kind of said earlier, you got to test and numerically balance this stuff out so perfectly as to get it at a point where you can make it that way. To let you know, I'm more like what Elusive X Treasure was.
Same
I like doing stuff. I'm not the person who grinds out hours and hours. I've done it for like an hour or so before, and I just turn my brain off for a little bit. I don't like doing tons of it, and it bothers me that in the long term, that can damage the game, because then the designers plan around those people, and that's how the economy tends to go. Again, more like what Zach was saying, they have to plan around the hyper efficient people and how they're accumulating stuff.
Quentin Nelson says, as in Mike is so right, I'm an alpha SWTOR player, so I got the long time SWTORs on my side. I was amazed, Zach, at how much straight down the middle 50-50 this was. It tore the audience just like it tore us. Go ahead, sir.
Sailor Narado 39 says, with regards to the SWTOR thing, I'm on Zach's side in that they should make everything equal instead of nerfing golds to the ground. I understand magicman's logic, but I've seen this kind of thing before in Warframe. When the syndicates were introduced, there was a node called Draco where everyone would farm to level up their syndicates by staying in the center of the room indefinitely and then AoE bursting a whole room of enemies to death in an instant. I know this exemplifies Q's and magicman's point of if you don't want to, don't play it, but I never cared for it because it turned the game into a chore, but people were doing it out of necessity and not because they really wanted to. So the devs not only nerfed the node by turning it into a mission with a definite end, but they nerfed several frames that were frequently used in it. This command point thing sounds like it was meant to be a great equalizer for all content so people could play out of the true desire and not grind content they'd rather not out of necessity, even if they choose of their own free will. I'm not bothered either way. I will still do what I want, bruh.
Damn the system. Go ahead, Jason.
XSO Spoon X says, definitely shouldn't be all equal. If they want to grind, so be it. I would rather play and do something that is more fun to me.
Amen. Amen. Sypha says, after talking to a few people in TeamSpeak, majority of them said that they would rather grind in an optimal way to get something rather than get X in a slower but more fun way. So these guys, girls, tending to agree with Zach's point of view. For example, one guy said he would rather kill endless hordes of mobs in Warframe if it was the fastest way to get a new frame rather than play the rest of the game the way he usually does. Go ahead, Zach.
Angel HRI says you must own a lot of percent from EA to defend it this much.
Oh, they called you the EA fanboy.
We're defending it though. I called them out on their poor execution, but I mean,
apparently I forgot to copy one in here. I know I copied it. It must be jammed in here somewhere. My favorite one, it was just hashtag Mike is right. Go ahead, Jason.
Hey, Drek Sky Shadow says, okay, I have an example for your argument. Here, wait, we just did this.
Oh, yeah.
Deja vu.
Yeah. So I apparently pasted this
one
in
that
here
over there.
over the one I wanted. Yeah,
it's a great example, though, because when he mentioned it, I completely should have just thought of this during last week's podcast, because Here the Storm does have that issue.
Yeah.
Where AI games are way more efficient, so everyone does them. So
I wonder if that's the issue that I've always had in Armored Warfare, too, because I know they have a PvE mode, and I have so much trouble finding people to do PvP, so...
Well, I was just going to... another cheap, dirty shot. I'm going to skip it. I took the shitty road earlier with the both of you. This one will take the high road and not talk about how there's just no one playing it. Shit!
No.
Oh, I said it!
Anyway.
Question of the week for this week. What are your thoughts on Turtle Rock's new project and publishing partner? And any guesses on what Hi-Rez might have in store next? Put those comments down below. Don't forget your weekly bombs. Da bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the world of gaming, or hell, whatever you want to talk about. And if you have a question for the panel, throw it in the comments below. Until next week, Zach, where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at Zach Sharps. Mostly going to be gaming from here on out. So, yeah.
All right. Jason.
You find me on Twitter at Winter Informal. Find me streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter. And I guess at a mall playing a Santa near you somewhere. So.
It's frightening. Mike Byrne.
And tweeting about ramen. Can't forget that.
Oh, God, yes. I'm going to buy lots of ramen.
Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. You can follow me personally on Twitter at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1. Of course, while you're there, follow MMO Bomb at MMO Bomb for all the latest on games, free giveaways, all that fun stuff. Until next week, see you on the server.